Eric, can you have a seat, please? Good morning, guys, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to 5D event, Saturday. What's the date today?
26?
2029? Is that the year we're going up? This is Deborah Gusti.
Justi.
Welcome to Alchemy event also. What a lovely pendant.
Thank you.
Deborah is a light worker, conscious worker for many years. She done a lot of good for a lot of people, millions, for past 20 years, and her own groups and outside the groups. This is one of the reasons we are here. She's promoting us, and she is bringing a great speaker, Mr. Gordon Asher Davidson. Please join us, and Deborah will introduce him.
Thank you. Well, you're all very fortunate to be here at 10 a.m. Saturday morning for this amazing talk. I'm here because I totally support Gordon and his mission. Gordon is an amazing being. He's been on the scene with his wife, Corinne, for many, many years. He was back in the early days of Finhorn, created a community on the East Coast, was part of the political scene in Washington, the progressive political scene, and has written books, eco-politics, and many other things. And it's much in the world, but he's actually been a meditator for 40 years. And about 20 years ago, he started getting direct connection from the Light Alliance, which are those galactics, the higher galactics that I think we're all aware of here, that are really helping to assist the planetary transformation and our personal ascension. And they told him he had to go write a book and get out and get public. And he's going, what? But that's what he did. And that's what he's been doing for the last year. They've told him that he has a great mission in the world to give the transmission of what's really going on to elevate us to the next evolution of consciousness, which is really becoming part of the galactic family in a super conscious way and evolutionizing ourselves from third dimension to fifth dimension, which is why we're here. So Gordon has an amazing way of explaining the picture so we can understand what's going on a higher level, and then also teaching us on how to activate our spiritual transformation so we can activate the ascension process. So for me, he's one of the most prominent, clear speakers I know that teaches about this. So I'm really happy to present Gordon Asher Davidson.
Thank you. Beautiful. Thank you. Okay. I assume this is good. Yeah. Well, thank you all for being here. Can you all hear me okay? No. Test. Yeah. Put it in there, right? All right. Hello, testing. How's that? Okay, excellent. Well, thank you all, old friends and new friends and people I have known and many people I'm meeting now to come and listen to and share in this amazing consciousness that's emerging on the planet right now. And I'm here to give you a deeper overview of how did the situation that we're in on planet Earth at this moment in time actually come about? Where are we intended to go in the future? And how are we going to get there? And this involves both the experience of humanity, the experience of the nature kingdoms, and the experience of all of the other civilizations and beings who are assisting in our evolution. And that is really a very comprehensive overview. And I'm going to share with you some things that you probably, some of you have not heard before, and some of them will probably challenge some of your beliefs and ideas about the world and the situation we're in, but that's fine. And I certainly am just offering them as my own inner perception, which is whatever works for you and is helpful. in your understanding, take and use, and whatever does not fit for you, perfectly fine. You're not in any way required to accept anything I say. And because I'm going to push the envelope a bit, quite a bit, I think you have the right to know where does this all come from? And so I'm going to share that with you. I have been a meditator, as Deborah said, for a very, very long time, actually about 50 years. But I've only been really deeply in contact with these inner beings for the last 20 years, if she is correct. And the way that came about was Corrine, my wife here, Corrine McLaughlin, and I started a spiritual community in Massachusetts called Sirius, after the star, which is actually based on a contact I had with a being from Sirius. And that's the origin of that, why we use that name. And we were very much engaged with creating an ecological and spiritual center in Massachusetts, and very actively working on spiritual work and teaching all over the world. And also going to Washington, D.C. in between and doing work there. And so I didn't like Washington too much. The energy was not too compatible, not exactly a garden spot. And so at a certain point I said, I've had enough of Washington. Let's take all our stuff, move back to our community and live there. It's so much better. And we had a book coming out called Spiritual Politics, which we had written. And so we moved everything back, and a week after we moved back, an arsonist burned our house to the ground. And we lost everything. And this was a very major event in our lives, as you can imagine, and I was very upset, as you can imagine. We're good spiritual people. We've been working all our lives to help the world and do good things, and what are you doing, burning our house down? And I was not happy. But we went on our 30-city book tour. We didn't even have any clothes. We had to go out and buy clothes. We had nothing. And we got a lot of help from a lot of people. And we did our 30-city book tour, and we came back to our community, and there was no place for us to live, so we went and lived with friends in Washington. And I was still not a happy camper. And I was very angry at God for doing this to us. And I couldn't understand why. Why did this happen? And I went through an incredibly deep, intense process of almost a year of struggling with this. And finally, I realized that the cause of the whole thing was me, and it was my spiritual will, my self-will, because I wanted to leave Washington. I didn't like it. The energy was hard. It was not fun. And Corrine, my wife, was we should stay in Washington and open a spiritual center. And I really didn't want to have anything to do with that. So I, in my own self-will, moved us back. Everything went up in flames. And I finally realized, no, it's self-will. It's wrong. So I went through this big struggle to let go of my personal will and really, really surrender to the higher will. What is God's will for me? What are we supposed to do? Because I had no idea at that point. And when I really did that, which took a long time, that was the moment when a hand came into my meditation offering me a blue rose and said, here we are. And at that moment, I began my 20-year close relationship with the spiritual masters and all these other beings. And from that time on, my entire life has been guided by what they have shared with me. And we've initiated many, many projects, written many books, and done many things with their help and their guidance. And it has proven to be so helpful and invaluable to everything we've done that I trust it a great deal. Doesn't mean it's infallible. I do make mistakes. I have made errors in my guidance, especially when it's someone I love, close to me, my family, other people. It's hard to get really clear guidance when it's someone close to you about them, about their life. But overall, it's been incredible. So I started receiving all this information about what's going on in the world. Why is it the way it is? What's the plan? Where is this going? And everything else. And I got this for about 3 years, and I was going, well, this is incredible, but what am I going to do with this? And then I got encouraged to do a teleseminar. I did a international teleseminar with about 100 people from all over the world, mostly professionals, and put this all out to them. And after that, I was encouraged to turn it into a book, which I did, which is called The Transfiguration of Our World, How a Light Alliance is Transforming Darkness and Creating a New Earth. And we will have that book for sale after this talk. I'll be happy to autograph copies for you. So I want to share with you, there's so much information, but my intention here is to share with you the most important things, the essence, the most key ideas and things that you need to know to understand what's going on in the world. Now, I'm fully aware that there are hundreds and hundreds of people out there talking about all these topics, and each one has their own their view of what's happening, and that's fine. What I have been given from a spiritual master who has a tremendous overview and is deeply involved in the implementation of the entire plan of how this is intended to work out, is I believe, and I've been told by many people, that is the most comprehensive, clear overview of what is going on this planet and where it's intended to go. Okay, so that's my introduction. But of course, you do not have to accept anything I say. It's completely up to you what you decide to do with it. So I'm going to start with a little piece. My friend here was talking about love and the scalar heart, and I really appreciated that. It's a very beautiful concept. And I want to share with you something about how the spiritual masters talk about love. The spiritual masters, and this is a direct quote, the spiritual masters do not experience love as just an energy that can be called upon to sweeten or clarify relationships, or that stimulates, warms, and opens hearts, or brings the energy of repentance, forgiveness, and lasting connection, although it provides all of these. Love is an all-pervading, omnipresent, infinite field matrix of energy which transcends all dimensional limitations of time and space, creating an indissoluble bond between all worlds and dimensions. It is an energetic matrix which, when entered at any point in any dimension, ultimately unfolds into a unity of consciousness with ever-expanding wholes to which there is no end or limit. Love is the greatest expander and extender of consciousness there is, the link between all worlds and dimensions, the ever-present matrix which holds every atom and every galaxy in right relationship. As such, entering the matrix through any dimensional portal intimately and ultimately leads into an ever-expanding revelation of the seamless unity of the whole, which is the one life. That's how the masters talk about love. It's extraordinary to me. It's so beautiful. So now I want to talk about, so everything I say today, I want you to hold it in that matrix of love. We are surrounded by this infinite matrix of love all the time, every moment. It's only a matter of our consciousness whether we open to it or not. And that is true for every single human being on the planet. It encompasses everyone. But our consciousness determines our experience of it. So that's really what we're always working with, is our consciousness, our openness. Now I want to go a little bit into the inner history of our planet, because this is important to understand in order to understand the current situation. I assume, David, that I have until 20 after 11, since we started at 20 after. I'm going to count on that. So our galaxy, for long cycles of time, has been punctuated by interplanetary wars and conflicts. There were two forces vying for supremacy: the forces of light, who were protecting and guarding and allowing each civilization and system to unfold in its own way, and those forces that were seeking to exploit, dominate, and control different systems. They were fought for the galaxy and this quadrant of it for a very long time. The Light Alliance emerged as a bringing together of those lighted forces who were seeking to protect and allow all civilizations to grow and unfold in their own way. That Light Alliance has been totally victorious in this part of the galaxy. There is no more resistance of the dark alliance, of the dark side in our galaxy, in our part of the galaxy at this point. So, and the Light Alliance is an agreement to keep the peace and uphold the principles of freedom, self-chosen development and evolution, and friendly relations between all races and civilizations. That's what's out there. I know there's a million other scenarios about what's out there. And I will talk about why those scenarios are present and what they all mean in a moment. But for now, let's just keep going here. So Earth, or Gaia, was an ultimate expression, as in its creation, of physical beauty, abundance, joy, and it was meant to be shared by all lives present on the planet, protected by the guardians of the Alliance. But there was a particular time, this is millennia ago, when there was a time-space anomaly in that protection, and a group of predatory aliens, a small group, about 50, entered into the planet and tried to establish themselves here. They were relatively quickly discovered by the Light Alliance, and the question was, do they remove them, or are they allowed to stay and become part of humanity's evolution? And after a great debate at the level of the solar system, it was decided that they would be allowed to remain, because that would then give every human being the chance to choose whether they would align with the light and service and love, or they would align with greed, selfishness, and all the other ways of being that the dark side was promoting. And that was and then as a result of those choices, we would learn that the way of light is far better for ourselves and for everyone else, and ultimately from learning through karma, and then ultimately choosing the light. That has been the plan of our evolution all along. And those forces, the dark forces have been here, and they're on the planet, organized themselves, and have really infiltrated many different civilizations. And the spiritual masters and the higher beings have sent representatives, emissaries, to teach us the ways of light. Buddha, Christ, Muhammad, all of the great teachers have all brought forward the vision of how to live in the light. And so that's been the great struggle for the heart and soul of humanity for our entire history. So that originating group of 50 aliens, and for most of you in this room, I don't usually say this, but because most of you are aficionados of this particular reality, they were reptilians. And they came in and they actually expanded and established themselves in every civilization, starting with Lemuria, through Atlantis, through every civilization. They always came in, they would gradually corrupt the political system, the priesthoods, whatever, and gain more and more control by influencing humanity to follow them. They had a certain level of powers. They actually could predict the future to a certain degree. They had a certain amount of telepathic control over human beings. And human beings were very, very influenced by them because they could demonstrate these powers, and therefore, lining up with them seemed like a path to riches, fame, and glory, which it was. And a lot of human beings chose to cooperate with them and build the systems that we have today of control that we have on this planet. And by control, I will just take a little example of this. They were behind the entire Nazi and the Japanese aggressive Axis powers, and they were seeking to create a slave state where they would rule and everyone else would be their slaves. That's their model. But the Allies had support and help from the Galactic Alliance. But at that time, the Galactic Alliance was not allowed to interfere directly in our affairs. but they could give energetic support. And they did. They gave energetic support to the Allies, enabling us to hold a point of focus and outlast the dark side. And we did. And we defeated them, and many of the leaders of the human part of that group were killed or executed or whatever, but the alien group was simply pushed back onto the astral plane and what's called sealed behind the door where evil dwells. And it was like sealing them up. They couldn't come back out. But in order for them to remain sealed, we as humanity had to not indulge in the kinds of attitudes and energies and things that gave them entrance, which is what? Greed, selfishness, hatred, violence, etc. We didn't do that. They came back out after the war, and they started reorganizing themselves again. And they gained more and more control over the whole world system. And I mean the financial, political, media, everything. And they had many different plans on how they were going to, one of their goals was to reduce the population of humanity by 80%, because they wanted to make it easier to rule. And we'll get into that in a minute. So what happened was they had many schemes. They were trying to promote a nuclear exchange between Israel and Iran, between the United States and Iran, between the United States and Russia. They tried to create a virus that would eliminate a lot of the population. Remember, it was called the SARS virus. Do you remember that? It happened quite a long time ago, but it was big thing. It was going to wipe out all huge danger to humanity, blah, 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 blah. All of a sudden, in 1 week, you never heard another word about the SARS virus. It dropped right out of the consciousness. What happened? Well, what actually happened, and I'm jumping ahead a little bit, what happened was that the galactics neutralized it completely. So it became harmless, completely harmless, neutralized it. And I'll get into how that happened in a moment. So that was one of their schemes. They had many, many schemes. None of them really were able to be carried out because of the help of the galactics. So what happened was their final biggest scheme was 9/11. 9/11 was a false flag event. And if any of you have any questions about that, I would suggest you do some research. Just get on the internet, spend a couple of hours researching the real stuff about 9/11 and the amount of evidence that's there that it was completely fabricated and an inside job is overwhelming. It is absolutely overwhelming. It was a false flag created event by what's called the dark side, the cabal. And the goal of that was to create massive fear, to be able to institute the Patriot Act and limit human freedoms in this country, to give an excuse to go invade the Middle East to try to get control of the oil, and on, and make it easier for them to control. So the first part of the thing worked pretty well. They instituted massive fear, they got the Patriot Act, and they invaded the Middle East. How did that work for you? Not too good. However, 9/11 was an event that had the greatest unintended consequence in the history of the world. Okay? This is great. This is when the good news starts, okay? We were dealing with all the bad stuff. Now the good news starts. Okay. Now we have to shift our focus a little bit and go up another dimension. Here we're looking at planet Earth. It is a planet within the solar system. Each planet in the solar system is a chakra in the body of the solar system, right? Just like we have all our chakras, the solar system has a series of chakras which are planets. If one of those chakras of the solar system is all controlled and darkened by this cabal, this group, this creating fear and negativity and massive control, what's going to happen to the solar system? Well, the solar system has been ready to move forward in its evolution, go to a higher frequency, rise and move forward, and all the solar systems with it. But because of the condition of Earth, it all was being held back. Our entire quadrant of the galaxy was held back by what's going on the planet. So here you have 9/11, 9/11, bingo. They were poised to really get control of the entire planet. I mean, really, media, finance, politics, everything. They already had a lot of control, but this was really going to be the total Nazi vision. We would all be slave laborers for those who run the world. What happened at that moment was there was a council called of the solar systemic being. That's the being with all the planets, all the councils of each of the planets in our solar system. A council was called, and they looked at the whole situation on Earth. They realized the Earth would not be able to move forward. I mean, the solar system would not be able to move forward as long as this kind of control was there on Earth. And if you remember, they had allowed those aliens to remain on Earth way, way back millennia ago. At that point, they made a decision and a decree, a series of decrees. The decision was that the dark controlling originating aliens would be removed from the planet. And they gave permission to the galactic civilizations to begin actually doing so, either removing them or turning them to the light. And there were 50 of them. That started in 2002. And that process has been underway, and they are all gone or turned. They are no longer present. The second thing that came out of that decree was allowing the galactics to radiate more energy and give more direct support to humanity, to all the light workers and light beings on the planet. That was allowed. Changed the rules of the game completely. So they began to communicate with more and more people on Earth, make connections to the world leaders, and actually begin a process of helping them understand truly what's going on and sharing a plan for how the Earth could transition into 5D, if you will, because that's what we're talking about here. They shared that plan. So that was the crucial turning point in this whole game was 9/11 and the decree that followed that. So, but they removed the extraterrestrial leadership, but then you have all the humans who have been cooperating with them, much to their benefit, right? So those are the people who control the system, the banks, the world, the media, the corporations. Not all of them are evil, but there's a fair number, excuse me, there are a fair number who are not very willing to give up their advantages that they enjoy as a result of the positions that they occupy. Some of them are, and some of them are turning to the light, and I can give you examples. But many of them are still wanting to maintain their power. So what has happened is now there has been created what's called the Galactic Earth Light Alliance. All of those beings, and this includes galactic civilizations, I'm talking about Pleiadians, Sirians, Andromedans, and others who are definitely involved. And there are many other galactic civilizations focusing on this planet at this time because of this unique transition that we're going through. And they are in contact with and communicating with world leaders. And I'm talking about heads of state that are actually working together with this huge worldwide network to develop this plan for how we're going to make the transition into the new civilization, in the new world, and move into where we are going. That's what's underway, okay? Now, I know from a certain point of view, you can look at the world and you see what's going on and you say, oh my God, this sounds like completely not real because look at all the horrible things happening. So we have to break that down a little bit and analyze it. First thing is you have to remember that the media is completely controlled by the cabal, by the dark side, right? You all know that? Mainstream media, not all the internet sources, but, and then on the internet, you have, tens of thousands of people who are being paid by the cabal to get onto the internet and promote fear, debunk anything positive and of the light, and attack anyone who is doing anything decent. That is a proven fact, and there are many people who have participated in these activities who have now confessed to it, told how they were trained, and how that it's all coming about. So the media trying to get accurate information about what's really going on is pretty challenging. It's not impossible. There is good stuff available on the internet, and sometimes the little things appear in the mainstream media, but you have to be extremely careful and very discerning about what you're looking at, okay? Because there's a lot of disinformation that's being planted out there. And some of the previous speakers have talked about this. So what we're doing now is formulating and finalizing the plan for what is going to occur in our world, the way this is meant to unfold. Now remember, none of this can happen without humanity's cooperation. This is not something being imposed upon us. We're not being rescued. When people get really upset when they say, well, the ETs are doing, or the galactics are doing this and that. They're doing it because we are taking the action. Because of this massive inflow of light and energy that's been pouring into the planet from the galactics, from the core of the galaxy, people are waking up. Would you not say people are waking up? I mean, they really are, massively. Now, some of those awakenings have been distorted and subverted, like in Libya and Iran and other places. The dark forces still grab it and they twist it and distort it, and it doesn't allow it to fulfill its intent. But that doesn't mean people aren't awake, and they are, and they're just waiting. So there's a huge awakening going on the planet, and the more we awaken and the more we do to free ourselves, every single little thing we do to free ourselves means that the galactics can give us more help, because it's a balanced system. Our free will has to be respected. But the more we take our own free will choices to move and free ourselves and get the information out and do all the things we're doing, the more help they can give us. And we're on this virtuous spiral up right now. That's what's going on. We're moving up and up because people are waking up, more and more information's coming out, and they're helping us more and more powerfully, okay? That's what's happening. So now there's a very complex, comprehensive plan of how this can unfold. And it's been designed not primarily just with the galactics, but it's a co-created plan of how to shift things with input from the financial leadership of the enlightened financial leadership of our planet, with the enlightened political leadership, and there is some, hard to believe, but there is, and by people of light and light workers all over the world. And it's huge, and it has a massive amount of support. It's all pretty much below the surface, but it's there. And I'm going to share with you what some of that is about. Okay, the current financial system was carefully designed by the dark side to maintain maximum control of all of the financial system of the world for their benefit. Does anyone have any argument with that premise? Probably not. The current political system has been so completely corrupted by the power of money that for the most part, rare exceptions, but for the most part, provides exactly what the cabal wants to have happen in the political system, right? Yeah, okay. Now, there are some exceptions, and, we can talk about that. What we are having now is the preparation for the transformation of our all of our systems of financial. Let's talk about that. Over the last several years, there have been over 2,500 CEOs, CFOs, and top-level leaders of hedge funds, banks, and major financial institutions who have resigned, disappeared, committed suicide, or in some other way are no longer in those positions. And at the same time, new people have been brought in, some of whom are much more lighted and much more of this new consciousness. Not all, but a good number. So this is part of the process of how this is underway. So the Light Alliance, the Earth Light Alliance, working with the Galactics, is composed of anyone who has any intention or light or love, it's trying to help humanity in any way. That is the Earth Light Alliance. And anyone who's doing anything like that is getting massive support from the Galactic Light Alliance for everything that they're doing. That is there, for sure. So, in the cooperation that's being given to the Light Alliance is completely of their own free will. This is not some kind of imposed thing. This is completely chosen by us, by humanity, to be part of this. So now we have this unified flow of energy from the center of the galaxy through the solar system to our Earth, anchoring right down into the human systems on the planet. That's the Galactic Light Alliance. It's like an energy stream. It's like a multi-level, multi-dimensional flow of energy right down to the practical level of how are we going to move this system from where it is to where it needs to go. So I'm going to share with you some ideas about how that's going to happen. There is a very sophisticated plan for how to reorganize our financial system. I'll give you a few of the highlights. And I'll get to how this is, because it sounds a little fantastical, and I'll explain to you how it's going to happen. So there's going to be a chartering of all banks. Banks will no longer be for-profit corporations owned by families for their own benefit. Instead, they will function like public utilities. They will provide financial services. They will loan money for a fee, not for interest, and they will provide all that we need for economic transactions. Interest-based money, interest-based currency and loans will be completely gone. That is going out of the whole entire picture. They will not be part of our system. Huh? Yeah, interest-based. Any interest-based system. The other plan, now this gets, there's going to be a new worldwide currency, which will be backed by gold and commodities, without any interest involved, which will be maintained by an international group. It will be very stable. There will not be speculation between currencies, because national currencies will remain, but they will be always they will be convertible into this new international currency, which everyone will want because it's the most stable currency and the most reliable. And the national currency will be evaluated on the strength of the economy, the strength of the resources that each country has. So it's very rational. But everyone is going to have a very stabilized system. Now, the other thing that's very controversial that I always say, which will definitely be controversial probably, is that all the people who have gained money through illicit means, through manipulating the system, through illegal, corrupt, not only drug dealing and all the other kinds of human trafficking and everything else, but also the manipulation of the financial system, which people have accumulated trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars. All of that, any money that people have made legitimately, have inherited legitimately, it will be fine. But any kind of money that has been gained through those kind of means will be confiscated. Now, people will say, well, okay, I'll get to this. How is this going to happen? But I just want to point out one very amusing fact to me, which is, there are many, many people who have, very wealthy people who have caves all over the world full of barrels of diamonds, racks of gold. I'm not exaggerating. There are pictures of them. You can see all this. And that's their hidey hole. That's where they're going to go when things get tough, right? The amusing part of this is the Galactics have technology that can locate any penny anywhere on the planet at any time, down to the penny. In other words, they have the capacity to detect those kind of substances anywhere in the world, under any depth or lead shields or whatever. It doesn't matter. That's how all that will be redistributed. The idea is it will be redistributed and used so that every single human being on this planet has the basics: food, shelter, clothing, healthcare, education, job opportunities, and all the rest of it. That is the plan. That is a definite part of the plan. There's all kinds of new kinds of housing that's being created where you could build a house in an hour for someone who needs housing. And of course, most of you know about free energy, which is tapping directly into the quantum field and pulling energy in and being able to have all the energy you need to do whatever you need to do. That's also part of the plan, and that will happen. So that's a crucial part. So that's the kind of restructuring of the banking system that we will see. I'll just say something, for those of you who are invested in stocks and things like that, any company you invest in that is doing good things, not doing harmful stuff, has good values or is producing good things, will be fine. Companies that are doing horrible stuff, that are basically cabal-controlled companies like Monsanto and Dow and many others, they will disappear. They will be gone, and that's part of the way this will unfold inevitably. So there will also be political reforms, and those who have been associated with the cabal and controlled by them or influenced by them will be removed and re-educated. And that will all shift. The qualifications to run for office new set of criteria are going to be established. This is fun. The criteria is that people have to show through their history that they really are able and willing to represent the best interests of the people they are supposed to be representing. Not themselves, or not any special groups that they're being paid by, or anything else. They really have to demonstrate. So, and everyone in the political system will have to meet these criteria. So I said, well, what about Congress? 80% won't make the cut. Which doesn't surprise me, right? If they have been cooperating with the cabal, giving in to all their demands, doing all the stuff that they're asking, they're not going to make it. They're not going to be able to be part of the political system. They will not participate. But there are thousands of people, really good people, who would like to participate in politics, who would do a good job of representing the people that they're supposed to, if they knew the system was not completely corrupted by money. You change that, there will be a flood of really good, qualified people who will want to go into politics. There are many of us. Not me, but many of us that will want to do that. And that will happen. That's part of how the shift will go on. Okay, so let's see. So I'll just say that there are three important ways that the galactics are helping humanity. They're protecting the Earth from any outside interference by harmful non-human races, which will never happen again, ever. They are backing any moves by the cabal. They are blocking any moves by the cabal to damage the Earth or create any kind of nuclear. The whole nuclear threat was completely banned way back, even before 9/11, but certainly after 9/11, it was completely off the table. There will be no nuclear exchange on this planet, ever. And they are advising members, Earth members of the Light Alliance. They're directly advising. So who are some of the people that we could look at in the world today? Guess what? We just had a visit from one of them. Who is it? Yes, he is one of the key players in the whole Light Alliance. He is really important. Who would have expected that the Catholic Church would become a powerful, positive force? But there you have it. Now, I know there's all kinds of stuff on the internet about the Pope and the Church, and let me just say something about that. I just wrote a blog about this. Yes, the Catholic Church has done horrible things in the past. That's true. Satanism, all kinds of weird stuff. Really strange, horrible, ghastly stuff. No doubt. However, what's happened is this man, with a tremendous energetic backing of the entire Light Alliance, has come in and is changing the entire game in the Vatican. He replaced the entire management team of the Vatican Bank. The Vatican Bank was one of the grounding points for the cabal's control of the financial system. That's completely blown out. He is now has professional managers running the bank. He has set up a council of 9 cardinals from all the different continents of the world. That's the de facto governing group of the Vatican. And they are all the most liberal cardinals in the whole curia. That's really important. He has the statements he's made about everything under the sun, from gays to abortion to, he's not perfect. He still has his own beliefs about birth control and about women and all that. But overall, the achievement of what he has done, especially the emphasis on the poor, because what he's doing, he's setting the groundwork for this shift in the way we are going to manage the planet. He's saying we have to care for the poor. We have to help them. We have a spiritual responsibility, them and the environment, to take care of them. We are going to change that. When we announce all these new changes in the financial system, guess who is going to back it to the max? The Catholic Church. And that's 1.2 billion people. And he's got more influence even than that now because of the way he is viewed on the world stage. He's an extremely powerful individual. Because why is he so powerful? Because he has this flow of energy going through him directly from the Light Alliance all the way up into the Galactics. I've been told he knows all about the Galactics. He actually has been in touch with them and communicating with them, and he's been told the whole plan. He announced that there was going to be a Jubilee year starting in December of this year. Do you know what a Jubilee year is in the Christian tradition? What it is debt forgiveness. Total, you forgive all debt, all sins, everything is forgiven. That's called the Jubilee year, and you start from zero. He's already declared that. Now, the Catholic Church is one thing, but if we have a worldwide debt forgiveness process, then it's going to be quite extraordinary. And that is part of the financial plan. All debt will be forgiven. All of it, every last bit of it, because most of it is illegitimate, corrupt, and used to control and manipulate people and keep them in survival mode, okay? So let me say a couple more things, and then we'll take some questions. But there's a lot more things to say. So you ask, how are we ever going to implement this plan? It sounds like a fairy tale. I understand that. Okay, here's what I've received. There is going to be a moment in time when there will be released upon this planet a wave of love. Love now, I said. Love. Like nothing we have ever seen before. By that I mean the intensity and the power of this wave of love will be like we've never had on this planet. Some people call it a tsunami of love, but that's a pop version of it. What it is that, this gets a little more complex. Our solar system is one of 7 solar systems, which makes up another being called the grand heavenly being. Just like we have 7 planets in the solar system chakras, we have 7 solar systems in the chakras of this greater being. It goes on like that. The microcosm reflects the macrocosm. So we have these 7 solar systems that are gradually being brought into full alignment together. The clearing of the Earth chakra was a key part of that, and that's fully underway. When that alignment takes place fully, all 7 solar systems, this huge release of love energy will permeate the planet. Now that all sounds wonderful, which it is. However, what the result of that will be is anyone on the planet who does not have some degree of resonance internal with love as a principle, as an experience, as some sense that they can relate and connect to love as an energy experience. All those people who cannot do that, and of course that encompasses quite a few people when you think about it, will no longer be able to remain on the planet. They will go on to other systems where they will be able to continue their evolution in a system that that matches their own individual frequency resonance, whatever their level is. So, and that is part of the plan. Some of them will go on to the astral plane and they will finish out their life like they won't even know they've passed, but they will finish it on the astral, and then they will reincarnate into other systems. Some people will go directly into other systems. The most severe members of the cabal who refuse any kind of turning will likely go to, many of them will choose to just be dissolved into the sun because they're so completely fixated that they do not want to even consider turning to the light. There are some like that. And many will turn to the light. So that's kind of how that's going to happen. That is always the question, and it's a reasonable question. What I've been told is not even the masters know, because it depends on when this alignment is completed between the 7 solar systems, right? But I have been told we're not talking about decades. We're not talking about huge, long cycles of time. It's not, we will all of us in this room see it in our lifetime. Okay? Even the people with gray hair. So that's what I got. And so this is something extraordinarily profound and deep. And I know it may sound somewhat fantastical to people, but if you imagine, you know, we have a situation on this planet where everything's in deadlock. If you feel into it, you can feel like we have it totally symbolized in our political process. The polarities are absolute maximum. Donald Trump and Bernie Sanders. Could you think of a greater polarity you could possibly dream up in your consciousness, right? Shh. What happens when you have these polarities? Well, it requires a resolution. It's holding a point of tension, but it can't be held forever. At a certain point, that tension has to be resolved. And what happens is it goes to a higher synthesis. And it finds the best of both and moves to a higher level. That's what's intended to happen for the political system. I don't mean that gives you a prediction about what's going to happen with the election, although I have gotten indicators that it's very possible that the election could be extended. The date of it could be extended, depending on what happens, possibly. So there's all kinds of things in the works. I know so many people are telling me, well, you know, I'm only planning my calendar to the end of the year. I have this feeling that something's going to be very different after that. And I don't want to get too locked in after the first of the year. So this is very interesting. I've heard this from multiple people. So there's a sense that something quite imminent is close by. And I feel that's correct. I really do. So the news is good. We are truly in an amazing period. It is the most greatest privilege and honor to be on Earth at this time and to be able to participate in this. I mean, I think this is the most significant period in human history since what? The birth of Christ? The start of the planet? I don't know, but it's pretty powerful time. If half of what I'm saying is true, then it is, you know, the beginning of an incredible cycle. And the idea is that we are going to, the other thing that is important to realize is we as humanity are awakening to our creative power. We are more and more people are realizing we are the creators. We create with our minds, our feelings, our intentions, and that is happening. More and more people are aware of that. And what's going on is that we now know we can create the future we intend, that we hold and we think about and we imagine. So part of my little contribution here is to help people hold the vision of this incredibly positive future. That's where we're going. And as someone was saying last night, you know, these are all just timelines. And we create the timelines based on what we believe is true and what we hold to be true. So, and the cabal knows this extremely well. And that is why they constantly project negative futures into the world consciousness constantly. Oh, the planet's going to go down to it's going to doomed because of climate change, or and you got to be terribly afraid of ETs because they're going to come and eat you and destroy you. That's a well-orchestrated campaign that's been going on for over 50 or 60 years. And someone asked a question last night about this, and it was really the cabal knew that the only power that could remove them from power was the galactics. And that's why they had this very well-developed campaign to prevent any positive information about galactics coming out, create horrible, scary books, movies, television shows about galactics so that everybody becomes afraid of them, so we never want to have anything to do with them. That was a very carefully developed campaign, and that's over. We have now about 60, 70% of humanity now believes they exist, and many of them think that they're friendly. They lost that one, and they completely lost it. And now I want to talk about one more thing, because this came up last night. It's a very important point. That's the thing about when are they going to come, the galactics. What I've gotten is that if the galactics came today or next week, what would happen? We would have, because of the state of the world, the chaotic state of the world right now, what would happen? The fundamentalists would go insane. They would be all crazy, fighting, arguing, demanding, fighting, just going nuts, literally. Freaked out. But there's an awful lot of them. Yeah, I know. That's why I want to talk about this. Yeah, and then in science, we got scientific fundamentalists. We've got, political fundamentalists. We've got all kinds of fundamentalists. And they all would be completely blown away by this. And the chaos and upheaval would be so intensive. The plan is that by allowing the day of revelation, it's called the day of revelation, the day when that love flow is so intensive that it clears away. By the way, at that time, the true history of our planet will be broadcast 24/7. They have over 40 hours of pre-developed programming, which is going to explain the entire history of our planet and humanity and what really happened on this planet since our beginnings. All that will be explained. All the activities of the cabal will be explained. Everything will be brought out so people will have a full understanding of what's going on at the day of revelation. And that's when we start the redistribution. We start taking care of everybody on the planet. And can you imagine, right now, what's the biggest thing that most people deal with right now? Fear. What's the fear? Yeah, money. But what's behind that fear? Survival, right. It's the survival fear. That is the base chakra. Even if people have a lot of money, they feel insecure. They feel that survival fear because it permeates the entire subconscious of humanity. And so you can imagine if the ETs landed, oh my God, they're going to kill us. Got all that programming from the TV shit, all that stuff. My God, they're going to freak out, because everybody's on edge with survival fear. It's universal, not totally, but very widespread. If we have the day of revelation, if we have the redistribution of income, if we have the reorganization of the financial system and political system, and people start to see real change on the ground that affects their life, all of a sudden, their subconscious will relax. And then we'll go, oh, I'm going to be okay. I don't have to worry about where my next meal's coming from, if I'm going to get thrown out of my house, if I don't have a job, or any of that stuff. All that's going to be gone. What happens is the whole subconscious of humanity takes a nice deep breath and relaxes. And then we have a year or two where we become creative. We instead of worrying about how we're going to get enough money to put food on the table, we're going to wake up in the morning and say, hey, what do I want to create today? What kind of music? What kind of poetry? What kind of whatever? What do I want to do today that's going to make something beautiful for us and for humanity? That's what people will be doing when they wake up in the morning. And that's the new world. And that's living in that 5D consciousness. So all that will then, at a certain point, make it quite possible for the galactics to come forward and say, here we are. And they will be credited with many of these changes that people will have already experienced, so they'll know that they're benevolent. And then they will come forward and they will interact with humanity. The Pleiadians will be the primary ones because they look the most like humans. And that will go on. And then eventually, we will be invited to join the Galactic Light Alliance as humanity, as Earth. Absolutely. And what does that mean? That means we will be able to travel to other planets, other systems, offer our experience of how we dealt with conflict, how we dealt with all the incredible challenges we've gone through on this planet as a help and teaching to other planets and systems that are going through a similar evolution. That's what the galactics do, and we will have a very powerful and unique contribution to make to that same kind of evolution of other systems once we have freed ourselves into galactic space. So that's my view, that's my vision. I hope you find it interesting. Okay, questions? Yes, go ahead, Margo. Go ahead.
Testing. Don't be too loud.
Hello? Okay. There are friends that are maintaining that the Pope, for one, and others, are in fact a cover-up for still the satanic order of dark forces, that he has been involved in rituals, very negative rituals, that you can look at his face and he looks dead, and blah, blah, blah. And then there is also other news from those that would contribute to the balancing of the financial, the monetary system by offering enough gold that it would be actually covered in its true value. But every time I listen to their progression of where they're going, even though they have the goodwill of implementing exactly the plan you just mentioned, and there are real people on this planet today, every time I hear what's happening to them and their next step and their progression, it's one block or one difficulty or one step back after another.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like I'm listening to this story, and it's always it seems to be always one step forward and two steps back.
Yes.
And it's very confusing.
I understand. It is extremely confusing to figure out what's going on. And I totally sympathize with that. Let me just say one thing about the Pope. And I've read all those reports you just described. I know them very well. And I've been in the Vatican some years ago, several times, and the energy in there was probably some of the darkest energy I've ever experienced, without a doubt. I mean, there was really bad stuff going on there. There's no doubt about it. And what people don't understand is we have had what's the word? I'm going to use a being come forward who has offered himself to be the channel for the light. And, you know, when you look at what he's done, the effect that he's having on people, the way he is handling this massive accumulation of darkness, which it is, the Vatican was, and it still has those aspects. They're not gone, but he is managing it extremely skillfully. I mean, he created a whole new group to run the Vatican completely outside the Curia. He doesn't even stay anywhere in the Vatican housing. He doesn't want to be in that energy. He's way outside of it because he knows how dark it is. I mean, he'd be a fool if he didn't. And so he's working to transform it. I mean, that's what people don't understand. You've got to be up to date on your information because the information, you know, you can read all this stuff and historically, yeah, there's been horrible stuff. But now there's something else, but you got to be able to see it. People register Pope the thought form, Catholic Church, evil, evil, evil. They can't, and I just wrote a blog about this, they can't register what's right in front of them. My criteria is, by their fruits ye shall know them, and what is the vibrational frequency that you actually get when you tune into the person? The way I have received that is he was and is a being who was a bishop in Argentina. We have people who knew him in Argentina. He was definitely genuine. Everything he's doing now is a continuation of what he was doing in Argentina. No question. Huh? Yeah, he did a lot of interfaith work. He's a very, very advanced being. What I got was he is being what we call overlighted, which is not meaning his soul is left and somebody else is occupying him. It's more like his soul is still there. He's still doing what he's always done. But he's getting fed massive energy from the Christ and from St. Francis. Those are the two beings overlighting him. And that's powerful stuff. And here's what happened. I don't know if you heard the story. When he was elected, he had to choose to accept. He went out on the balcony and he was standing there and saying, I don't know if I can do this. I really, really, I don't think I'm capable, or I don't have the strength or the whatever. I'm not enough. And he said this at that moment. An energy came in and filled him up. And he said it's never left him since. And people who have seen him now say he is not the same person. People who knew him in Argentina said he is not the same person he was in Argentina. So for all intents and purposes, yes, there is a completely different energy working through him than who he was when he was in Argentina. Yes. Okay. Go ahead, sir, and then we'll get to him.
What can you share with us about the new governance that will replace this present obsolete government and its systems? And more especially, you mentioned about there's the programming ready to advise all of the world.
Right. True.
And that obviously will happen through media. And this is the heart of world media here.
Right.
Can you give any understanding of the change? In my opinion, would be to say from this present system of corporations.
Right. Absolutely. Yes, the corporation media, most of it's owned by the Rothschilds and the Bilderbergers, and they're not exactly the light workers on the planet. So what we have is there are a lot of good people in the media, and we know some of them, and I'm sure other people do here, who would love to bring beautiful things through the media, and some do, despite all the limitations. But especially in mainstream press and television, it's extremely difficult because the control is very intensive. Okay, now just imagine that every person in the media world who did not understand what love is was gone. How would the media function at that point? Quite differently, wouldn't it? It would. I mean, and that would mean the removal of all of the blockages, all of the people who don't want truth, don't want light, don't want love to be presented because there is a specific agenda to maximize fear and anxiety and violence and not have human beings trust each other at all. That's the biggest danger is we'll start trusting each other. And then we'll start working together and we'll organize. And then, oh my God, there's this huge force coming at them and they don't know what to do with it because they can't stop it. That's the big thing. So they want to keep this image of human beings as dangerous and horrible, and you really shouldn't trust anybody, right? That's what violence is about. So all that is gone. If it's all gone, what happens then? all the decent people who have so many wonderful ideas and heartfelt visions of what they want to bring forward for humanity would be able to do it. It's a different world. And many are already doing it despite the blockages, but but it would really be wide open and a whole different thing.
This gentleman was next.
Hi, I just wanted to ask you what's the galactic perspective on what's happening in Fukushima and the fallout from that?
Yes, that's a very good question. Just as the Galactics neutralized the SARS virus, they have been working on neutralizing the radioactivity from Fukushima from the beginning. And there are actually videos from around the time when the initial meltdown happened with flying ships, ET ships, flying around the plant. You can see them. They're on the internet. I've seen them. So there's no question that they've been actively involved. There was a researcher, a fish researcher named Dr. Klinghardt, who has an institute who does fish research. And they were very, very concerned about what's happening to the fish in the Pacific as a result of the radiation issue. And he was monitoring the fish, monitoring what's going on in the ocean. And about 8 months ago, he made an announcement to a group that he could find, all of a sudden, he could find no evidence of any effects. There were preceding that evidence of effects from the radiation. No evidence of effects of the radiation on fish. There's no explanation that you can come up with other than somebody helped us with that issue. And my view is if we hadn't had that kind of assistance, I mean, the Pacific would be a radioactive sink at this point. It would be a ghastly, horrible mess. They neutralize it. They have the capacity to do that. And that's the kind of protection and help that we're getting.
I wanted you to address global warming.
Mm-hmm.
There's a controversy that the humanity is behind a lot of it, and then there's another theory that it's happening throughout the solar system, and that we're contributing to it, but it's the normal cycle of how things happen. What do you propose is going to happen when this shift happens?
Well, I just to answer your fundamental question, I think both are true. I think both are true. What I've gotten about this is that once we go, part of the instability of the climate right now is a result, because and we wrote a lot about this in our previous book, Spiritual Politics, when there is a huge battle going on the inner planes, on the inner levels, and other dimensions, it reflects into the physical world, right? Always, the climate and events and weather and everything. And we've done lots of research on this, and we have lots and lots of events we can tell you about. So it reflects into the physical world. Once we resolve this whole inner battle, because we're at the culminating stage of it now, what I've gotten is that the climate will stabilize. It will stabilize. The whole thing will shift. And it's interesting that now the scientists are saying that there's a very good chance we're going to get a big El Nino this year. That's very interesting because that kind of correlates with what I'm getting. And, it's like once the inner level of things harmonizes, we can have much more harmony in the outer world. And the global warming itself, I don't see it as being anything that the galactic civilizations couldn't help us resolve. What's that? HARP is shut down. It's off. It's gone. It's shut down already. It's been shut down for a while. It has. Yes. Go ahead. Uh-huh. Yeah. Right. The question was, what about ISIS and where do they fit in this plan? Well, the goal of the dark side always is to maximize chaos, disruption, fear, and instability, and all those things. That benefits them tremendously because they feed off the fear. There's actually a process where they live off negative energy. So ISIS was a creation of various countries or groups within countries to by the cabal, you know what I mean by the cabal, right? The dark groups, to basically destabilize the Middle East as much as possible, because they want to destabilize it, because the ultimate goal was they wanted to create a nuclear interaction exchange between Israel and Iran, or the United States and Iran, or whatever they could do to create some kind of a big blow up in the Middle East. That has not succeeded in the way that they wanted. ISIS is, I've heard, and I haven't really checked deeply into this. I mean, I haven't really gone into this, in my meditation work. So I'm not real clear exactly where that's at. Somebody last night was saying that the executions are all false flag things. They're not real. They never really happened. The beheadings and all that. I don't know. I haven't checked into that. I'm really focused a lot on it, but I could, But it's going to dissipate. Definitely will dissipate. Oh, I love that question. Thank you. Oh, it's so interesting. I can say a lot about this. Do I have more time, or am I going to get the hook any minute? Thank you. Thank you. The question was, what about the current political situation, the election for president? Who should you vote for? Yeah, well, that would be nice, but not possible. Obama is definitely a member of the Light Alliance. He actually, I know it's hard to believe, and I know people get really upset when I say that, but the fact of the matter is, he was juggling, well, it's a complex story. I could go into it if you want. But basically, he was told that there was an agreement that was put in place that the leaders of the cabal were supposed to voluntarily resign from a lot of the control positions in the society during his first term. And there was going to be a simple, peaceful transition to the Light Alliance taking more and more control of society. And he was going to be a focal point for that. They reneged on their agreement. They did not do it, obviously. And instead, they just completely opposed him viciously from the beginning. And that's why he kept trying to work with them. And, remember, he kept the whole first term, he was trying to conciliate and work with them and try to create his agreements, and went nowhere. And the second term, he started to do everything he could do on his own. But there was a period, the first couple of years of his second term, where he didn't do much, because the whole thing was kind of in stasis. About a year, 14 months ago, if you notice, all of a sudden, he starts doing all kinds of stuff that he can do by executive order, right? A whole bunch of different initiatives, putting around wilderness set-asides, around what he did with immigration, about, taxes, everything. He knew they weren't going to get passed, but he put them out there. What was he doing? He was creating the template for what is meant to come forward in the future. That's what he was doing, setting it out there as a vision. And he was like, I thought of it as about, Obama unleashed. All of a sudden, he's just doing all this stuff, which is good, which we like. The TPP was the big puzzler. Why? You all understand what the TPP is, right? The Trans-Pacific Partnership. That was where they were going to give a lot of power to corporations to and trade, and they were going to. It was a horrendous piece of legislation. What happened with that? What I was told is it was they cut a deal. He would push the TPP for the Republicans, for the cabal, if they would Supreme Court would let Obamacare go through, and B, they would pass the Iran treaty. They made a deal because Obama knew that the TPP would never go into effect, because even if they had passed it, which they didn't, the changes coming would have meant that it never would have come into effect. So he got what he wanted. He got Obamacare, and he got the Iran deal, and they got nothing. How about that? Okay? So it's hard to see, sometimes to see all these different levels of what's going on. It's very complex. Yes? Yeah, wait for the mic. Who's got the mic?
Hi.
Oh, I didn't get to the next president. I'm sorry. Let me just finish the question. Oh, keep the mic. It's okay. Just hold on. Next president. This is very, very interesting. I love this question. I got way back when Bernie started, they said, Bernie, and if you examine carefully what he's proposing, which I have very carefully, I would say he is just about exactly on the line of what the plan is about. He doesn't carry it quite as far because he doesn't have all that information about what's the real plan behind it. But everything he's saying we need to do is exactly what we do need to do. He's right on. And so they didn't think he had a chance because he was a socialist. He is self-described socialist. Now, all of a sudden, Bernie's burning up the country, Burning Man, and he is really doing incredibly well. And when I read this thing about demographics, the millennials don't give a hoot about whether you call yourself a socialist or not. They don't give a damn. They care about what's your program, what are you going to do, what's going to happen, what's your plan, where you want to go, where are we going to take us. And I saw a 20-year-old do a takedown of Hillary's commercial with her talking about her grandmother and how her grandmother was taken care of by her family and all this. Did you ever see that ad she did? And this millennial just tore it to pieces because he said, I don't give a damn about your grandmother. I want to know what, and that's all she talked about in the whole ad. I want to know what the hell you're going to do for the country. And it was totally right on. And he was right. And it was just really good. And I talked to people who've heard Hillary speak in person, and they say she's just not motivating. It's not, and the energy isn't there. Fire's not there. And meanwhile, Bernie's getting 20,000. Jeb can't even turn out 200. And so I don't know where this is going to go. But what I did get was, if the new requirements to run for office are put into place, Hillary would not be qualified unless she had very specifically lighted advisors who would be working with her, and she would have to be very much under working with them very, very closely. And a change of her paradigm is what I got, because she's stuck in the old paradigm totally. That's clear. Huh? Yeah, a lot of it. Well, she has that vision of wanting to help the world, but it's all based on old politics. How you make alliances with different groups and you do all this, and that's not going to cut it. So, and as far as the Republicans go, they said nobody in the is qualified. Nobody at all, and I can certainly agree with that. I mean, I call it Carly and the 10 Dwarfs. Anyway, so Mike. Oh wait, I'm sorry. You have the mic. Go ahead.
So in 2009, we were asked, Deborah and I, to be a bridge between money and new technology. So we have about 100 technologies that can change the world, from banking, from internet, from free energy, from the out of dependency with gas and all of that. And what we've watched is that the money hasn't been moving. It's like, we have everything that it needs, this inflow to make it move, and it hasn't moved. Why? What's going on?
Because the cabal still controls a certain degree of the financial system. It's not liberated yet. Once that happens, which will happen with the day of revelation, then everything will start flowing. But they still do control a lot. They can block things, as they are doing. So that's the reason. It's not completely freed up yet. Okay, I think one last question and then we'll close, okay?
Yes, thank you very much. I think good for the people that they care about their grandmoms and grandpa. So because all of the experience and everything is coming from them. And my grandparents, they die when 115 years old, 105, yes. Wow. And that I have their experience. Also, my babysitter, that they was from Germany and other countries, and I come international, and the international brain about everything. But whatever I want now, because I had only 24 years old that I came America, and I lost my granddad, I couldn't get the informations that he had. He had the leader of the family and the leader of the first person who built church in the Muslim country and Sufis. Okay, I'm going to answer. I'm going steps one by one, not one from 10 and come jump down. Okay, fell down. I want to tell that he was telling, I want to ask you, he was telling all of the energy is coming from the sun, and everything, all of the energies of the sun, anything, it comes from sun, it's healthy. And wake up 4 o'clock morning till 12 o'clock noon. Never you get Alzheimer's. While you wake up with sunlight, sunrise, sleep. So when sun is coming out, you wake up early morning, 4 o'clock, so you don't need electricity.
Yes.
Never let your house be dark. Always use sun. Right. And also at night, you sleep soon before sun rays, okay? Don't use electricity. Right. So he had about 108, 117 years old. He never used glass. And they was very healthy. And they never had Alzheimer. You know, he is Sufi. Right. He is the same as my granddad is.
Thank you.
And
Thank
I know
you.
them.
We will consider your health advice very carefully.
If we continue old-fashioned, the country is going back. And if you continue old-fashioned, you shall be powerful, healthy, never cancer comes to you. But 17 years ago, I so dreamed that black man is going to be president. And 42 years ago, I was in America, I was a student.
Okay.
I told White House.
Thank you very much.
They didn't believe it.
All right.
But 7 years ago, they believed.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. I just want, David, just one thing. So I'm going to be, yes, I am going to start a show which is going to be called Galactic News, updates from the Light Alliance. Every month, you can sign up on our website, worldtransfiguration.com. I will have flyers for it outside on our table. And so you'll get the latest updates on what's going on. And I will be back there immediately following this talk to sign books if you'd like to purchase a book, which gives more detail than what I've shared with you today about all this. And I thank you all so much for your attention and your...
Thank you for coming.
All right.
Pleasure. Next, me and Eric will talk about alientology. Don't miss it. And about this picture, what happened in there, why they took him there after he was elected. Thank you so much. Thank you, Dave. Thanks for inviting me. Awesome.